Hi loves, it's Elle and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to see each and every one of you. Today is going to be my ultimate, kind of one, you can find everything in one place, my top ultimate eyeshadow hacks. Now, if you have problems with eyeshadows, I guarantee you each one of these hacks is going to make your life so much easier. So before we get started, hit the subscribe button, share this video with somebody you think might like it, and let's do it. All right, so I just have my foundation on and the rest of it. I have nothing on my eyes. So my first tip is this. If you have eyes like me, where I have quite a bit of pigmentation here, there's two things you can do. Obviously, I go with this quite a bit. I'll just enhance it with a little bit of bronzer and call it a day. But for most people, they want to counteract that or to not have that. One of my big makeup artist hacks is to start with a base color. Now I know this might sound kind of like a given, but every time I tell somebody, they are like, oh, I don't do that. And this really inhibits blending. I know a lot of people have problems with blending their eyeshadow out or getting that smooth kind of blurred out look. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is to start using a base. Now that doesn't mean that you can't wear eyeshadow primer. I have eyeshadow primer on right now. I love the Urban Decay one. That's what I use. It has no color to it, and there we go. But when you use something like that, you still need something kind of more powdery on your eyes, especially if you're using powder eyeshadows after this, obviously not for cream shadows, but specifically if you are trying to do like a one or two different eyeshadow color look. So my favorite thing to do is to, whatever your skin tone is to pick a shadow that matches that. I'm just using a random shadow palette, okay? So for me, I'm gonna be using this color right here. And what that does, and just a regular old brush, and what that does is it counteracts some of this discoloration that's on the eye. And when you apply this from your lash line all the way up to your brow bone, you have a perfect kind of more smooth and also usually a palette that your eyeshadows can move more freely across. If you don't do this and you have a ton of problems with blending multiple shadows on your eyes, try this trick. You will thank me. And I usually always bring my base color in here to the corner of the eye because a lot of us have darkness in the center of our eyes or on the corner of our eyes. And that will open up the eyes, make it a lot brighter, and make the eyes appear a little bit farther apart. All right, so for hack number 2, this is my go-to that I do most days, but it also is like a hack 2 and a hack 3, and I want to talk you through it. So first of all, if you just want a one shadow look, you guys have got to start using your bronzer. This is just the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. I am so excited to have her back. They were certified as cruelty-free. So grab your bronzer, and you can use your bronzer as what we call a transition shade. This is also one of my favorite makeup artist hacks out there. When you start with a transition shade, there's a couple reasons why it works really well to start as a base of your eyeshadow. Look, it's going to train your hand to where your socket is or where you want that first kind of initial color. But also too, you can use a transition shade or a bronzer to basically bring the shadow from your lash line all the way up past your socket line. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about both. All right, so when we age or when we have a smaller eye shape or when we have a hooded eye shape, we want to make sure that we're applying our transition shade, looking down at a mirror. It's really important. I have a mirror right here looking down. We're going to go in with just the tip of the brush. We're going to do very light pressure, and we're just going to go back and forth. Now remember, my hack is always to make sure you use a brush that is the size of your eye. Don't go in with something huge because you're going to get the color all over. So I'm just going to build this color up to my liking, so whatever look that I'm going with that day. And I'm just going to go back and forth. Now for me, I do have a little bit more of a prominent brow bone, and as I age, my eyes are getting more hooded. What I want to do is I'm going to go in this transition line, in this socket, so stick the brush in the socket, and then I'm going to go a little bit above it. And that's really important because what it's going to do is it's going to make that look like it recedes a little bit. Remember, dark recedes, light brings forward. So we're trying to make this recede just a touch, and I'm going a little bit higher on my brow bone. And again, on the other side, I'm going right in the crease first, and we're going to push it up on the brow bone and allow that eye look to start taking shape. When we start with a transition shade that is like a lighter version of the colors we're using, it doesn't have to be brown, it can be whatever you want it to be. But when we go in with a lighter color first, it also helps with that blending, again, with all those colors, and then it also helps to build depth in your eyeshadow look, so it's not one-dimensional. All right, so for number 3, this is one of those really important eyeshadow tricks that you really want to master, especially with anybody that has eyes like me or downturned eyes, you know, where basically the lash line goes down, or if you feel when you apply your eyeshadow that everything just kind of pulls your eyes down. And the reason is what I call do not pass line, okay? So if I was to take a smaller brush, and I'm going to kind of demonstrate it for you, you have your lower lash line right here, yes? This lower lash line for almost everybody either goes straight across or goes up into the eyebrow. Okay, so for example, if I was to continue the line, my eyeshadow line would go up to the end of my brow into my temple. And when we follow that and we don't pass that line, it brings the eyes up. It lifts the eyes up and it keeps everything kind of in an upward motion, which is where we want it to go. So for example, if I was to use just a little, you know, angled brush, what we can do is we can look down into the mirror, but our chin now is down. Our eyes are kind of up, so chin's down, eyes up. I'm going to gently, with my transition shade, you don't really want to see this, just so you guys know. You want to bring this line halfway in, and then you want to extend it up. And you want to go in that line that's going to go up to the temple. And this is what we call our no pass line. I'm going to do it with a little bit of a darker color so you guys can see it. Just like that. Now, when you're blending your shades, so say you're blending another color on top of your transition color, or you're using your transition shade, you want to make sure you're going inside and outside of that socket, back and forth. And then here's my do not pass line. I am not going to pass that line. I am going to keep everything going up in an upward motion towards that brow bone. And you can see I'm pulling my brush inward. I'm not pulling my brush down. I'm pulling my brush inward with very, very light pressure. So again, I'm going to trace from the bottom lash line, do not pass line, right there. I'm going to take my second color or your transition shade, go back and forth, and I'm just going to make sure I blend that line inward towards the center of my eye. You can take your finger and just do a little bit of blending here. Okay. So you can see as I close my eyes, everything is going in an upward direction. And this way the eyes look again lifted and more youthful. But when you do your eyeshadow, just remember, I'm going to make my do not pass line first, and then I'm going to blend inward and again, not pass that line. So for my fourth hack, now if this is hard for you to understand or hard for you to do, another great way to do this, honestly, is to take a Post-it or a piece of tape and align it with your bottom lash line like this. This is super old school. If you're using tape, I would absolutely do this before your foundation. So you're going to lay it along your lash line so that it goes up in our do not pass line, and we're just going to go like this. And if this is easier for you because you can't stop and you want something to go over, then there you go. And then you take that off and you have your do not pass line, basically. So again, underneath, down, and back and forth. And there we go. All right, so for my next one, I love a good drop shadow underneath the eye. When we talk about eyeliner, we want to make sure that the eyeliner is not closing the eye up too much, but we want it to open the eye up and define it, of course. So what I like to do is I like to take it on a little just like brush that looks like this, or a pencil brush, something short and dense. I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper color, or you can use the same color you used as your second shade or transition shade. I'm going to look into my mirror with my chin down again. And I'm going to gently go back and forth, and I'm going to angle my brush up. Okay, that's really important when we're talking about a drop shadow. Drop shadows can be really dramatic, or they can be just there for almost an optical illusion. So you want to use a little bit of a bigger brush like this because you want this to be kind of messy and smoky. And again, at that angle going up so that it doesn't pull our eye down. So you don't want to go straight across, because what happens is we pass our do not pass line. So I'm angling my brush up into that eye area, just like that. And I'll show you again on the other eye. Again, chin down, back and forth, and then whatever's left on my brush, I bring it up into that do not pass line. And you can see it really shapes and forms the eye, and it also brings great attention and detail and definition to that lower lash line. Because as we age, tendency to not use eyeliner sometimes on the top and give a little bit more of a drop shadow on the bottom to make our eyes appear wider. All right, now this is one of my ultimate favorite techniques. So I'm just gonna take any old gel eyeliner. Whoops, I'm dropping things now. So I'm going to take a gel eyeliner. I love the new ColourPop ones. This is going to be brown. You can use any color you want. Burgundy, purple, blue, whatever the color is that you want. I do urge most people, for the most part, to stay away from black, because black, as we age, can be a little too stark, and it does have an opportunity to be a little aging. But if black is your jam, totally do it. Go on with your bad self. Just use the same technique. So what I'm going to talk about is basically not wearing eyeliner on the top. When we don't wear eyeliner on the top, it gives more room for this to appear larger. So this is especially for people that have more of a smaller eye shape, or a lot of hooding up here, and they don't want to take away from the small space they already have here with eyeliner. So try this technique. What you're going to do, and you don't have to do this with a drop shadow, just since I have it on already. You can do it just by itself, and it will create its own drop shadow. So what you want to do is you want to only line the lower lash line as to start. So we're going to bring the definition and attention to the lower lash line to make the eye appear larger. So you're going to apply your liner as you normally would. Again, gently going up into the top eye line, just so it's continued. You're going to take your brush and you're going to smoke that out a little bit. Okay. Now, if you have an eye line, like the top line goes down, okay, and it's hard for you to say, for example, not past that line, or it's like it skips there when you kind of lift up, what I want you to do is I want you to come from the outside in. So I want you to go over the part that's causing the skip. So when you come from the outside in, it actually goes right over it. And then you take your little brush and you blend it out, okay? Do the other eye really quickly. Okay, I'm gonna show you that trick again. So my eye line does not fold right here, but if you have a significant fold right here, I want you to pull out and in, right over that fold, just like this, and then give it a little bit of a blend. Now, when you're doing this look, what I recommend is to line your waterline. Now, you don't have to do it on the bottom if you don't want to, because that's going to be a little more dramatic and it is going to close the eye up a little bit. But I highly recommend tight lining the waterline on top, and I'll show you how I do that. So I have a little mirror down here, like I said. I'm gonna lift my eyelid up and I'm going to go right along the lash line. Okay, so now I hope you can see the difference. It is more of a subtle effect. It is not something that is meant to be dramatic, especially when you're using a brown or a gray or something like that. So what it does is it just lines the upper lash line. You're gonna put mascara on, so even though I have my lashes on, your eyelashes would look like this with mascara. And what it does is it builds a beautiful frame around the eye, and you didn't have to take away any space from that top lid. Now for fun, if I was going out at night, I would just take the same liner and rim the bottom waterline. All right, so for the last one is going to be an overall tip for blending out eyeshadow. We've been talking a lot about blending, which is the start is the base, obviously, so things move more smoothly on top of it. We talked about transition starting, so it gives your hands some practice before you go in. It also allows the eye look to have more definition if you're gonna go in with more color than me, but also to really making sure that you're choosing smaller brushes that are the size of your eyes. Also, when you're using a brush, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see when I'm doing a Zoom call one-on-one with somebody with makeup or something like that, and they're practicing in front of me, is they smash their brush against their eye like this, okay? What that does is A, it splays your brush, but B, it creates a larger surface area on your brush that you don't want. Brushes are made in different ways for different parts of your eye. So this is meant to be used on the tip so you can get in real fine detail. This is a little bit more of a blending brush or a brush that you can kind of put an all over color on. So don't smash into your brush. This brush was not meant to be used like this. If you're finding that you are using a brush like this, then you want to do a bigger blending brush. I know that this is annoying, honestly, because for an eye, you probably should have 3 brushes for your eye look at any time. But when you're looking at the brush, I want you to look at it and I want you to say, okay, so this is a domed tip brush and it's been meant to use just this dome tip to get the effectiveness of the brush. So I really want you guys to kind of get comfortable with your brush techniques as well, because any eye look with great brushes and used the appropriate way is going to be a showstopper no matter what. This does take a little bit of practice, but I believe in each and every one of you guys. I know you guys can do this. So play with these tips. Take one at a time and then build upon it. And that way you can really have a solid eye look. Because honestly, the no pass line, the drop shadow, the bringing the transition shade up to the brow bone a little bit more is going to be universal. You can use this with 4 or 5, 6, 7 different shadows if you want to on the eyes. It's just really remembering the basics and how to deal with smaller, hooded, aging, all eyes of all sorts. So I hope that these tips helped you. Let me know what your favorite one is. Have you tried any of these? And I'll see you on the next one. Lots of love from me to you. Bye, loves.